Welcome to Sage Audio. Today let's look at 10 vocal chain presets, but first, if you have a mix that you need mastered, send it to us to receive a free mastered sample of it with the link in the description. Vocal DS with Shade EQ. For this video, let's look at some vocal effect presets that you could use at the start of your vocal chain or to accomplish certain effects within that chain. Also, we should be releasing these presets for download in the future, but also please feel free to recreate them. Now, first off, I want to start with this Shade EQ, which the more I learn about, the more I see how it could be used for really complex and useful processing. This preset in particular is a vocal de-esser. It's made up of 2 bands and 2 envelope followers. The first band is a resonant peak filter, and I attached a follower to its gain and Q value. Then I set the trigger to the frequency range that's being affected. Now within the follower, I could control the attack and release to quickly attenuate and return it to unity. I did the same thing for the second band, but used a new follower so that I could set the trigger to the respective frequency range. You could recreate this with a different dynamic EQ, but being able to control the attack, release, and threshold, as well as make the Q value dynamically narrow or widen, creates very unique de-essing. Let's take a listen to the effect.
I'm trying to grow up as fast as I can. You already told me you needed a real man, yeah. I'm trying to grow up as fast as I can. You already told me you needed a real man, yeah.
Vocal EQ randomization. I'm going to use the same Shade EQ again, but this time introduce something that's not too common, randomization. I've created one filter above the vocal's presence and the other over the fundamental, then used randomization filters to alter the band's frequency, amplitude, and Q value. For the lower band, I limited the randomization of the frequency to a range of 100 Hz to keep it near the fundamental. For the higher one though, I set it to a range of 5 kHz to add some variation. Now you might be wondering why I'd even do this, but when you hear it, you realize it adds needed variation to a vocal and creates a subtle complexity that's enjoyable to have. So let's take a listen and notice how subtle randomization makes the vocal more interesting.
I'm trying to grow up as fast as I can. You already told me you needed a real man, yeah. I'm trying to grow up as fast as I can. You already told me you needed a real man, yeah.
If you're enjoying the video, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It's free and it helps us bring you more videos. Smooth classic vocal chain. Next up, let's look at PSP's Infinistrip. With it, I created this classic sounding vocal chain starting with a gate, a 60s emulated preamp gain to shape the tone, an optical compressor, and then smooth dynamic tube distortion. Last up, I added a classic EQ emulation to add some clarity. Now with the EQ, I also attenuated some of the low mids and boosted the fundamental. Now collectively, these processors add a vintage sound to the vocal, so let's take a listen to it and let me know in the comments if you think this chain got us closer to an older sound.
I'm trying to grow up as fast as I can. You already told me you needed a real man, yeah. I'm trying to grow up as fast as I can. You already told me you needed a real man, yeah.
4 capsule emulations. Let's take a look at some EQ presets that I made a little while back, starting with these 4 capsule frequency response emulations. The CK12 capsule is used in classic AKG microphones, as well as the Sony C800G, whereas the K47 was developed for the Neumann U47. Now, as you might imagine, this emulation creates a slightly classic vocal sound. The K67 is slightly more modern and was used in the U67 and U87, and is probably the most popular capsule used when recording vocals. Lastly, the M7 is a lesser used capsule, again developed by Neumann, that sounds slightly vintage but really just has a unique characteristic. Now when using these, I'd recommend first trying to get the vocal's response as flat as possible, then inserting one of these presets. So let's take a listen to the same vocal, but with an EQ included that flattens the response prior to cycling through these 4 different presets.
I'm trying to grow up as fast as I can. You already told me you needed a real man, yeah. I'm trying to grow up as fast as I can. You already told me you needed a real man, yeah.
Quick vocal start, EQ. This next preset focuses on important vocal frequency ranges. I found it works great for dialogue or any vocal in which you want clarity and clear pronunciation. The high pass and low frequency cut clean up the vocal and demask higher frequencies. The bell at 500 Hz improves vowel articulation. Now the bell at 700 Hz reduces nasally tones, but this could be shifted from 700 Hz to 1.2 kHz depending on the singer. Lastly, a bell at 3 kHz adds presence, and a high shelf adds some air and clarity. Let's take a listen and notice how the vocal pronunciation and clarity improve.
I'm trying to grow up as fast as I can. You already told me you needed a real man, yeah. I'm trying to grow up as fast as I can. You already told me you needed a real man, yeah.
Popular microphone EQ emulations. Earlier we covered various microphone capsules, but a microphone circuit combined with the capsule create the final frequency response. Now we'll notice that a U87 circuit attenuates some of the lows and the highs of the U67 capsule, while also introducing a subtle 500 Hz bump with mild resonance attenuation on both sides. The Sony C800G, on the other hand, retains a lot of the highs created from its CK12 capsule, which is why the microphone works well for R&B, as well as rap, where vocal clarity and crispness is important. Let's again use our first EQ to flatten the response, and then listen to both of these response emulations.
I'm trying to grow up as fast as I can. You already told me you needed a real man, yeah. I'm trying to grow up as fast as I can. You already told me you needed a real man, yeah.
Today's video is brought to you by Lalal AI, a next-generation neural network trained in separating and extracting various instruments and signals, all with minimal audio artifacts. To use it, simply upload your track, let the AI process it, and then preview the results. It can separate vocals from instrumentation, as well as drums, bass, electric guitar, and more. Additionally, they offer a vocal cleaning program that's great at attenuating unwanted noise from a vocal or dialogue. Right now, they're offering a free starter package, so check that out using the link in the description. 2. Preamp EQ emulations. Last up for the frequency response emulations, let's cover the subtle changes made by various microphone preamps. First, a Neve 1073, and then an API 512C. We'll notice that the 1073 attenuates some lows very mildly, as well as dips a little more of 12 kHz before boosting air very gradually. The 512C amplifies some sub-frequencies before acting almost like a very subtle tilt filter and then exponentially amplifying 10 kHz and above. Let's take a listen to these preamp emulations, but first use the EQ that we've been using to flatten the response, and then use the U87 emulation covered in the last chapter.
I'm trying to grow up as fast as I can. You already told me you needed a real man, yeah. I'm trying to grow up as fast as I can. You already told me you needed a real man, yeah.
If you're enjoying the channel, use the search box to watch more of our videos. Aggressive vocal bite, saturation. This next preset is something I made to add a lot of character to a vocal quickly. With the FabFilter Saturn II, I created 3 bands of saturation, with the mid-frequency band having the most saturation. Then, with a follower, I modulated the amount of distortion. Lastly, I linked this follower to the frequency crossovers and used a positive value. By this I mean that whenever there was an incoming signal, this more heavily distorted mid-range got shifted up in frequency. This way, more distortion occurs to the high frequency range during the transient. Then, more subtle distortion occurs to the mids and the lows after the transient. Let's take a listen and adjust the mix slider to blend the effect in.
I'm trying to grow up as fast as I can. You already told me you needed a real man, yeah. I'm trying to grow up as fast as I can. You already told me you needed a real man, yeah.
Vocal room reverb. For this preset, I wanted to make a vocal reverb that sounded realistic, but also augmented the vocal in a way that would be hard to find in a real space. This reverb is short, but includes a good mix of bright and dark reflections to fill the vocal. I also used lower modulation and a low pre-delay to make it sound realistic, but then augmented some presence frequencies in the high mids to help it cut through. Let's take a listen to the reverb used in parallel and then blend in the effect.
I'm trying to grow up as fast as I can. You already told me you needed a real man, yeah. I'm trying to grow up as fast as I can. You already told me you needed a real man, yeah.
Mid-frequency vocal delay. I wanted to include a preset based on a stock plugin, so here's one using Logic's stereo delay. With it, I'll delay the left channel by 1/16 and the right by a dotted 16th before isolating the reflections to the low and high mids. The feedback was kept low to avoid a metallic sound, but high enough to actually hear the effect. Then some mild crossover was used to add complexity and slightly emulate classic tape-based delay equipment. I kept the output low with the intention of using this effect on the main vocal channel, but you could also set it to 100% if you wanted to use the preset as a send or parallel track. Let's take a listen.
I'm trying to grow up as fast as I can. You already told me you needed a real man, yeah. I'm trying to grow up as fast as I can. You already told me you needed a real man, yeah.
If you have a mix that you need mastered, send it to us to receive a free mastered sample of it with the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching.